Okay, everybody, so we're back here at the air conditioners, and as you can tell by the title, I think I am finally happy with what the results are for the first floor AC. I think we have finally solved the problem. But first and foremost, I want to thank all of you who took the time to comment on my last two videos and give me some information about why I was experiencing the conditions that I was. A lot of you gave some great detail. Some of you are also in the HVAC industry. You gave me some great detail as to why the refrigerant could be doing what it's doing, why there's some sweating, why there's the frosting, and all of you really gave me some great information, and I watched some videos and maybe kind of helped me consider what I should look at. Thank you so much for that. You really came in handy. So basically, in my last video, as you saw, I discovered that there was a piece of insulation inside the air handler that had come loose, and it was blocking a section of the evaporator. So, as you know, I had taped a good section of that insulation to the side best I could with foil tape, and it seemed to be doing pretty well. I checked it again, I'm going to say just shy of a week ago, and even though it was holding, there was still a section of the evaporator towards the back that I just felt was not getting decent amount of airflow. Most of it was, but not the whole thing. So I was like, you know what? It's time to just do it this way. So I had gloves on. I took that insulation and I carefully took it off the sides and just ripped that whole section of insulation out, because, I mean, there's nothing else I could do. The only way I could possibly clear that blockage and make it perfectly open for the evaporator was to take that whole thing out. So now I got it out very carefully. There's no loose fiberglass being hit by the blower, so I'm happy about that. And basically, now with that piece of insulation out, now that whole evaporator is getting full airflow. Better than it was even with my repair, so much happier about that. Now, in terms of the casing of the air handler, I'm not really concerned about air conditioning season because it's just at or just kind of before the evaporator, if you want to call it that. But if it causes any, if it gets too hot with heating season, because it is after the heat exchanger, I'll just put a exterior insulation piece on the side there, or maybe leave it alone. It may not even be that big of a deal, okay? But before I go any further, let me just show you a quick thing I drew here and give you an idea of what what was going on with the evaporator. So on this piece of paper right here, I just quickly, with a permanent marker, just drew the shape of the evaporator coil. So just to show you what it kind of looks like. It's kind of like an N coil, I guess, because it kind of looks like an N, if you want to call it that. So basically, here's what's going on, okay? So the evaporator is 3 sections, more or less, all right? And the cabinet goes in about, I'm going to say roughly 15 inches, might be the rough estimate, okay? So you had the piece of insulation on this side over here. And then, so what was happening was, every time the blower came on, I guess because the fiberglass got loose, and why I think that happened, I'll get into that later. But the whole thing got loose. That the whole silvery portion, you know, the reflective portion, was basically for the entire depth going up against the evaporator like that. So as you can see here, with that blockage, that's a legit third of the evaporator that wasn't getting any airflow. And like I said in some previous videos, airflow is everything in an air conditioning system, not just refrigerant pressures. So with a whole third of the evaporator not getting airflow, yeah, that's definitely going to cause lower suction pressure and also cause excessive sweating and also possibly frosting, like you saw. And basically, once I totally cleared this away, right away there was a difference. As you saw, the vent temperatures were lower, the compressor sounded happier, and also it was also completely dry now. That's another thing too. I'll get to that when I get back outside. So now with that insulation out of the way, it's getting full airflow now, so it's working much better than it was. And to be totally honest with you, it's probably been like this for, I'd say, since 2023 when I first discovered that problem. So for about 2 years it was doing that, and thankfully now it's not. So all things considered, I'm glad it did okay overall. So let's head back outside. And how appropriate is it that now the first floor one is running, huh? It's kind of funny. So after I did what I just said, I took care of that blockage. I came back outside after a while, and I could see that part of the pad. Remember how much water there was on there? That was completely bone dry finally, and the line was still sweating. Once again, the line was still sweating, which it should, but the compressor body itself was dry. So I was happy about that. So I did learn it wasn't really an overcharge that was causing the compressor to do that. What had happened was, basically, it was causing the suction pressure to be lowered just enough where If it was hot outside, it wouldn't cause any frosting, but it was basically, what do you call it? It was basically making the body of the compressor cold enough to cause the humidity to condense on it. And then once I clear that blockage on the evaporator, it basically just warmed back up, and then it doesn't do that anymore. So I'm very happy about that it finally solved that problem. So I did have the guy come here actually just yesterday. Yes, it was just yesterday, and he actually did a pressure check. So basically, outside it was about 82 degrees, and inside it was about 72 degrees. So this is R410A refrigerant, and basically the low side pressure was 119, and the high side pressure was like 289. So for those conditions for R410A, that was perfect pressure. So I was very happy to see that. So I asked what maybe could have happened when the guy came to what do you call it, put more refrigerant in. I do remember he was actually very careful when he did that 2 years ago, because he wasn't too sure how much he should put in, because it was kind of on the cooler side, outside and inside. And the guy did say it's totally possible that maybe the amount that he put in wasn't enough to cause an overcharge condition, because refrigerants, let me say it again, AC systems do give you some leeway in the sense of basically, what do you call it, allowing some variations before there's an overcharge or an undercharge. So that did work out, but he checked everything, pressure was good, and I also, the coils were clean to begin with, but I gave the coils a full cleaning, took care of the evaporator, and when he came and checked the pressures, basically it was in the best condition it possibly could be. So I'm just really, really happy that was the case with this whole thing. You know, I was really getting nervous about everything, but then when I saw that part of the installation like that, I was like, I think I just found what was wrong with this the entire time. And, you know, the fact that he was doing that for 2 years, it's like, oh man, I'm glad I cleared it now when I did, you know? So after I did have that installation taken out and everything, we did have a couple of cooler nights at night when this was running. So I was like, you know what, this is perfect timing. Let me come on out here. So I came out here, looked directly at the suction line, and zero ice on it at all. So I was very happy about that. So it was a cooler night. It had been running for a good 15-20 minutes, because it was trying to cool down the bedroom to the nighttime temperature, and there was no ice whatsoever on the line. So, I was so happy to see that. You know, it made me feel so much better about everything. So in terms of why the installation did what it did, I haven't checked the second floor yet, but I'm going to do that when it's cooler outside. Then I'll give it a check there. If the second floor still looks perfect, all right, then if I had to take a guess, either there was a defect with the insulation that was installed that made it come apart like that, or I'm wondering if the whole house humidifier had anything to do with that. Not in the case of, like I mentioned last time, with the return air going through the return duct. No, I'm wondering if the actual humidity that was going through it during heating season would cause the fiberglass to loosen like that. You know, like I don't know if that's what happened, but I'm just trying to wonder why the first floor had this problem but the second floor didn't. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out here with this whole situation here, and just trying to figure out why it did what it did in regards to it coming loose like that. Actually, you know what? Now that it just turned off here, let's have a look at the compressor. You can see there is sweating on the pipe, which is fine. But in terms of everything else, yeah, that's definitely a lot better than it was. So, you know, and then that's better too, as you can see. So, I'm wondering if maybe the whole house humidifier caused the insulation to have that problem. I don't know. To be fair, it'd probably be better if the evaporator was an A coil and not a what do you call it? Not a N coil. So maybe that could be a defect there too. Who knows? But we'll worry about that later. Anyway, thanks to all you guys again. To all the information you guys gave me to figure out why this was doing what it was doing, and also why what do you call it? What I should possibly look for, what the issues could be. And thanks to you guys, I did some extra research, as you can see, and took that panel off, found an insulation, and that was the problem. And we had the guy check the pressures. The pressures were good. So all in all, I say this could arguably be working better than it ever has before. So thanks to all you guys and everything. You really came in handy and found the problem, had an official check from a person, and now things are looking great. So on this next part of the video, I'm going to kind of maybe go into like a little bit of a tangent here. So if you want to see that, go ahead and keep watching. If you're done, you're not interested, you can finish watching here. Okay. So there's all the info for that. Thank you guys for helping, and now on to the second part. I just want to basically kind of talk about myself here. You know, just how much I notice things. You know what I'm saying? Whether it sounds, something physical, whatever. You know, call me crazy, call me OCD, whatever you want. If either of those are true, or both of them are true, I have no shame whatsoever in that, okay? I'm a person who notices a lot of things, whether it's fan speed, compressor sound, wetness from, cooler temperatures and things like that. If there's any sort of difference that I don't remember ever seeing, I know something's wrong, okay? Like, the first example was, remember in 2022 when I changed the run capacitor on this unit, and that ended up being the problem? Remember the compressor sounded loud, the fan was going slower, and I was like, okay, I know what the problem is. And in that instance, how many people can you think of that would even take the time to notice something like that? They just figured, oh, it's running, it's fine, no big deal. No, in this case here, there was a very serious problem going on. And even with the first floor unit, remember what happened last year with, I noticed, you never saw it on video, but I thought the condenser fan was spinning up slower than it used to, and it just did not seem like the way that it once was. So I take the panel off, and come to find out that the run capacitor had either shorted out or vented, and then the compressor wire was hanging on by a thread, more or less. So, right, and the wires were damaged, as you saw. So I was like, oh Lord, like, remember how upset I sounded about it? And then Jay, thank you to him again, just came along, was like, yeah, I'll help you fix this. And like I said, he didn't have to do that, but he did. I still to this day thank him for that. And oh, there goes that one. And just the way I am, if something is different, I'm gonna notice it. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's so many instances where I'm repeating myself here, I'm sorry. If I don't remember seeing something and now I'm seeing it, I'm going to say something is not right. Like, and just recently with this, we mentioned about the wiring. What about when I saw how much water was on the pad? And I was like, I don't ever remember seeing that happen. So, and then I look inside, I see how much the compressor is sweating, and I'm like, what? Why is it doing that? And just for the fact, having two equal sized units kind of helps too, because if that one's not doing it, but that one is, it's got to be something. And then sure enough, it was the whole situation of the evaporator being, a third of it being blocked. And I'm glad it wasn't a condition of it being overcharged and then possible, and God forbid liquid goes back to the compressor, because if that happens, oh God, the compressor is probably not going to last too long. So I'm glad that wasn't the case. But even so, just the fact of all this water I was seeing, I was like, wait a minute, it never used to do this. Why is it doing it now? And then, sure enough, did some things, thanks to you guys too, of course, looked at some stuff, found the problem. So, all in all, I am not at all ashamed of the way that I am, because I notice many things that most people would not notice. Like I said, they'll just be thinking it's running, and they're like, yep, everything's all fine. But in this case, it wasn't. And thankfully, I finally found what the problem was. So I can definitely say I'm happy about the way that I am. You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy that I notice the things that I do, because more often than not, they come in handy. Not just with air conditioning, it could be on my car, it could be other things in the house, you name it. It's really come in handy for me more often than not. Alright, so there you guys go. I went enough on that tangent, as you can see. But all in all the blockages on the evaporator are gone. Refrigerant pressures are good. Coils are clean. Guy was here checking everything. So I can definitely say I'm very happy with how things are now. I feel better about this than I have for the last 2 years. And here's to hoping it stays as such. As always, I'm going to keep tabs on them every single year. But if things stay the way they are, I'm going to say we're good. And I'm glad things turned out the way they did. So now I can put my mind at rest, I guess you could say, with some of this. And then if things, like I said, things stay the way they are, we're good to go. All right, thanks a lot for listening to me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.